I'm standing in the heart of the Glendalough monastic city. Approximately 150 of these towers constructed throughout the island of Ireland, somewhere between the years 900 and 1200. So the tower here in Glendalough is a fine example of about 35 of those towers which are still in existence and still in very good condition today in the country. So this tower, as you can see, is quite tall. It's stone built. It's 100 feet high, and you might notice there's a feature here towards the base of the tower. This in fact is the main entrance of the tower itself. This tower had 6 floors originally. There's none of the floors existing now because there would have been timber, and all that timber structure is gone. Each of the floors had a little window, and if you look towards the top of the tower, you will notice, you can see one of those windows. The windows were constructed in a spiral set up around the building, so we can only see the one on the 5th floor above. However, if you look higher again, you will notice that there's more windows on the very top floor. So that is the case. There are 4 windows on the 6th floor. And what's interesting about those is those windows are orientated north, south, east and west almost perfectly. You'll notice that it has a conical roof at the very top. It was originally constructed with large flat slabs of the stone, but sometime in the 1800s the tower was struck by lightning, and in the 1880s there was repair works carried out and the roof was replaced just with boulders and small stones, but it still functions today perfectly and keeps the tower dry. The towers and the monastic city here in Glendalough existed after the time of the Vikings' arrival in Ireland, and the monks were always fearful that the Vikings would attack their establishments, steal their wealth, etc., plunder the place, and indeed murder the population in the area here. So the suggestion was that the doorway was above so that they could access the tower in an emergency by a ladder, pull the ladder up behind them and close the door. But you know, if you think about that, all the Vikings had to do was light a fire at the base of the door, and that structure behind me, the Irish Round Tower, would act as a chimney. Well, there's no question about it that these towers acted as a bell tower. But what's interesting about that is there was never a swung bell inside in these towers. It was always a hand-rung bell that was used to call the faithful to prayer, and indeed the monks to prayer. So if you wanted to carry out a pilgrimage here to Glendalough, you might have difficulty finding the place. So the suggestion is that if you got yourself to high ground, scan the countryside, and the chances are you might spot the tower in the distance, and that would at least give you a direction to travel in. It also acted as what they refer to as a scriptoria. So a lot of the famous books and writings and copies of the Bible, that some of which still exist today, that were produced by hand by monks in these monastic establishments. So a perfectly good example of that, although it didn't come from Glendalough, is the famous Book of Kells, which is housed in Trinity College in Dublin to this very day. So I hope you enjoyed that little insight into the Valley of Glendalough and indeed St. Kevin's monastic city.